Okay, so we are glad to have you join us this very morning on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Of course, it's 17 minutes past 9 a.m. and we are saying welcome to the Polity Tuesday edition, this third day of February 2026. You know that what we do on Polity is that we bring you headlines of various newspapers and then take conversations on the topical developments. My name is Franklin Ebeka. Chison Chinedu, good morning.
Good morning, Franklin. Good morning, Nigerians. Yesterday, coincidentally, I was in Ose when the governor, Professor Charles Chikumasaludo, came to Ose and consequently or subsequently Main Market to gauge the level of compliance himself. And it was, I don't know what to call it. I lack the adjective. But one moment, I saw the same people who I heard say all sorts of things change to hailing Mr. Governor in split seconds, Franklin. I don't mean later. They were now convinced. Before he spoke, Franklin, the moment they saw, I was like, is this how fickle humans are? Some women were even more invested in how he's a fine man, how he actually does look good in person, and how he's really young and all of that. And I was just making a mental calculation of how it would be very insane for anyone to base judgment on what other humans say. Also yesterday, I witnessed the propaganda spread. Some persons were spreading this rumor that there was an incident around the world where somebody was shot dead. And I checked all news platforms. I didn't get to see that, frankly. Did you see?
I think I was showing people around yesterday when I saw that because, on our program yesterday, we talked about, people being careful about what they consume on social media because people intentionally decide to create non-existing chaos because naturally they are anarchists. So when I saw that very thing, I knew it was one of those, handworks of, anarchists. Nothing happened. It was just somebody wanting to create a sensation, wanting to create fear. Just like yesterday, sometime at the main market, people will just run for nothing. And then when you ask what is pursuing you and nobody sees anything, so it's just like this is what happens. So the thing is this: there are people who thrive in anarchy, and there are people who, by the virtue of the fact that they have become the so-called content creator, all they are looking for is engagement on their platform. They don't mind whether it is irresponsibility to society. So that's what you saw yesterday. Then you talked about people who were hailing Mr. Governor. Of course, that tells you the nature of human beings. I keep on telling people that each time we talk about the bad governance we have in the country and we blame leaders, I don't join in blaming leaders because the people are the most responsible for that bad governance. Because the same people who, in one swoop, talk about how bad a government is, in the next instance, they are telling you how that government is, maybe by the virtue of being physically present with that very person, or by the virtue of receiving one gesture or the other. So, a few days ago, it was Soludo shows the law. Yesterday, it was Ayimolobi Sale Sale. That's what we saw yesterday. And
it was even Biagolu Mafia. He bought words from a particular woman at Ose, told her that he's an umo to so no get kwon. It was people following him to the shop, seeing some persons were even. Another argument I heard yesterday that really shocked me. If this thing is 60,000, I'll tell him it is 300,000. I will tell him it is 80,000. And I was like, how are we so quickly drawn to doing the wrong things? To fraud. Because this is fraud. So because he's a government official and you think he has all the money, you move straight to being fraudulent.
Wow. But how would they think that the governor will know is going to do such? Because the person I know, I doubt if you are going to tell him that the price of this biro is 10 naira, is 50 naira, whereas he's sold for 5 naira, whether he's going to buy that. I doubt, based on the person I know. So let's bring in Tony Orisambeke. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin. Good morning, the good people of this country. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, the Anambra. Good morning, the Onitsha Donido. Good morning, in Dosumuhu. Good morning, the Onitsha Main Market. Good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. It's a very beautiful day. And it's another day to thank God Almighty for His mercy, for everything He has done for us. We'll keep praising Him, we'll keep glorifying Him. It's always a beautiful morning to quite change ideas and exchange a lot of things going forward. We saw what happened yesterday, and we are still talking about that. And we know very well that today, being Tuesday, the third day in the month of February, the year 2026, is a marvelous day. Of course, I heard the banters and everything. It tells you that the architects, the enemies, the purveyors of doom, I think yesterday seems to have been decapitated in a way. Just like Chisom said that she was there, I was also there. And people were so much interested to see people comply with the sit-at-home order again. What joy would it give you as a person? What joy would it give you that the economy is short, everything is short, transportation short, education short, market short? What joy will it give you? Are you on the side of those who are saying we must sit at home? Are you on the side of those who say provide security? Where do you belong to? You can't just stand on the fence. Most importantly, we must always work for collective good, for collective interest, not just your own interest. I've always said many times that we are the architect of our own misfortunes, of our own predicaments, of our own failures. We have contributed in one way or the other. And people wouldn't want to see the light at the end of the tunnel. For what? So I don't want to start preaching, but the key thing is, we saw what happened yesterday. We're going to talk more about that. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. You are welcome.
Okay, so welcome once more. Just to remind you that we are live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM on Facebook. The video is up already. You can share, like, and follow the page. Then on our Instagram and the YouTube channels, we are Udala Radio. Just get interactive on those platforms. Let's get to deepen the engagement. And once more, my name is Franklin Ebeka. We are going to look at the headlines now. And if you look at the papers, you see that some things are getting more attention than the other. You talk about update on the face-off between the Anambra State government and traders at Onitsha main market over Monday sit at home. Of course, we are giving you a tip of the iceberg of what happened yesterday. Then PDP is in the news because the crisis in that party is not ending anytime soon. Because yesterday, the faction loyal to Nyesom Wike, of course, they announced their plan to have a national convention almost the same time that the APC is going to have its own. APC is also in the news because APC has unveiled the 73-member committee for its national convention scheduled for March this year. And guess what? The governor of Imo State, who seems to be playing all the strings, he's once again going to lead that very committee for the convention. And if someone tells you how influential he has become in APC, don't doubt that very person. Then there's a story about the rescue of 17 trafficking victims in a popular hotel in Onitsha and the arrest of 4 suspects. That one happened yesterday. In fact, if you check all the papers, even News Agency of Nigeria, FROC, they all have this very story. And it's quite a sad one. It happened at a backyard here. And then there are other developments in the polity that you might want to check out. Guess what? Nigerian embassy in South Africa was cut off electricity because we owe South Africa. And what pained me most was the fact that the South African authority went on X to post it. So guess what? The world has known that Nigerian embassy couldn't pay its energy bill in South Africa. There are other things that are contained in the papers this very morning. Of course, when we begin the analysis, you get to know all these developments. So stay with us. Next will be for you to know the headlines in the newspapers.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Data Radio 104.7 FM. Of course, is the Polity, and we get to look at the headlines now. We'll begin with the headlines we have on Vanguard newspaper this morning, and the big story there says state government now to share payments of electricity subsidy. FG, the story is on page 5. It has riders, we are reviewing situation, NGF CERC. Funding to come from PCAF source. States should pay subsidy as active partners. CPPE. Big fiscal political shift. Professor Iledare. And this one says experts cast doubt over FG's power to make states pay electricity subsidies. You are going to read all this in that very story. Then this one says Onitsha market lockdown. 10,000 shops marked for demolition. The story is on page 11. It has a rider. We have opened market, but nobody's coming to buy from us. Traders. Market leaders hail traders. Then above the nameplate, the headlines there include 2027 APC moves to exploit opposition's disunity. The story is on page 4. This one says prosecutor to London court. Diazan is spent £140,000 on furniture. Others. The story is on page 9. Then this one says outrage as Nigerian music superstars face disappointment again at 68 Grammy Award. The story is on page 7, and that story was written with a picture of Davido and Burna Boy. Then another story on page 19 says Nigeria loses 77.7 billion US dollars to illicit financial flows in 10 years. That is according to a report. We now get to the story on page 8. It says Makoko protest. Police use expired tear gas on protesters. Falano. What does that mean? Does it mean police doesn't have money anymore to purchase tear gas? Malami challenges EFCC, asks court to set aside interim forfeiture on property. The story is on page 6. Malami is saying that 3 out of the 3 properties that were listed for interim forfeiture, that they were acquired before he became the minister. Therefore, the court should set them aside. And there are other stories you might want to check out. And then the interesting one is the Mr. and Mrs. which I like to read all the time. You can also see that on the front page of Vanguard newspaper.
All right, then from the front page of the Vanguard, let's go to the Guardian, where the banner headline is Party Politics by Court Orders Hurt Internal Democracy, Opposition. That's on page 6. Court remands suspects of Benue killings in Kuje prison on page 9. NBA advocates time frame for resolving legal disputes on page 3. Kuka, Nigerians must unite to end killings of Christians and Muslims on page 2. 2027, Saraki rejects APC virtue to Fintiri as the ruling party intensifies recruitment. That's on page 6. Port Harcourt to worry refineries workers protest and paid salaries on page 9. Are those refineries working? How do they have workers that should be paid?
You ask whether they are working. When the refineries were in comatose, people were earning from the refinery on monthly basis. How much more when it was revitalized but not functional?
This is the point where we get to say Nigeria, our country, we hail thee. Saludo visits Onitsha market as residents observe sit at home on page 8. We had better movement yesterday, but of course, still pockets of emptiness here and there. Hopefully, in the coming days, hopefully before the end of February, Frank, we should have better movement. Nigeria paying heavy price for underfunding education sector. Oshimbajo is saying that on page 7. President directs MDAs to disclose electricity subsidy pay bills on page 3. Court restrains NLC, TUC, others from strike protest in page 9. We understand that we're planning to team up with Federal Capital Territory workers and have a rally. I'll be running for president in 2027, Obi confirms on page 3. But then, on what platform? No primaries have been conducted yet. Well, we keep our fingers crossed. Those are the stories you'd find on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Well, only Obi knows what he's playing because from the look of things, there is this very rumor about an alliance between him and the Rabi Pankoso, which is being pushed by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, though he hasn't spoken about that. There's also this very rumor about a plan that if eventually he goes for primary under ADC and he fails to pick the ticket, he's going to become a running mate to Atiku Abubakar. The good thing is that he has not punctured any of these very things, but each time he has a platform to talk about his ambition, he will tell you, I'll be on the ballot in 2027. But I must say that people who are close to him, each time you ask them this very question, they'll give you an open-ended answer, suggesting that any of the following could be an option in 2027. So let's see how that one gets to develop. Then, you talked about the NLC, TUC, with FCTA saga. So I don't know what is actually playing out there. One is that we need to ask questions about if the National Industrial Code has the power or authority to stop, a protest or a strike. That's number one. The number two is the fact that there is a substituting court order, yet the workers there were not obeying, the court order. So how does that put Mandi Neme Striko, Mandi Jugweji? Then we move over to the Punch newspaper to see the headlines there. The big story says big money, small impact. Governors face fire over 9 trillion naira FAC windfall. The story is on page 2. It has a rider. Federal locations leap 37% post subsidy. Spotlight on state spending. NLC economists. Opposition parties react. Then beside the nameplate, Electoral Act. Senate resumes debate today after backlash. The story is on page 48. FG moves to share electricity subsidy cost with state. The story is on page 8. A PDP crisis, Wike block plans convention after court victory. That story is on page 46. APC unveils 73-member National Convention Committee. The story is on page 46. And another story there says refiners battle crude shortage as Nigeria export 306 million barrels. That story is on page 41. A court remands 9 over killing of 150 in Benue. The story is on page 7. And interestingly, ever since that those killings happened in Benue, that was last year. It was yesterday that the federal government arraigned these very guys, and they said they took their time to the investigation. So, is it going to make any difference by the time they begin to, call for witnesses or evidence at the court? Is it going to make the case to be shortened? Only time is going to tell. If the long time it took them for them to arraign them in court will be justified. Then another story says ministry blames budget delay as South Africa cuts embassy power supply. That story is on page 46. Father seeks justice over son's mysterious death inside Lagos hotel. That story is on page 6. And this one says no country sees daily killings like Nigeria. Kuka, the story is on page 24. And those are the headlines we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
All right, and from the front page of the Punch newspaper, we are going over to The Nation. And the banner headline here is Federal Government to share costs with states councils. This is about electricity subsidy payment. Federal government is set to share costs with states and councils on page 4. History. Speaking about electricity, I have been trying to understand something, Franklin. According to the last time that we talked about the duties of distribution companies, I got to find out that they are supposed to be the ones providing transformers.
Of course.
And so, places that do not have transformers, how do they go about it? Does it mean that the distribution companies do not know that these places do not have transformers? I'll give you an instance. When you get to 3-3, there are estates in that area that do not have transformers. And now they keep having to share transformers with some other people. Something they said about, the load being on the transformer they are sharing with being too heavy. So what they do is they share the light. They give some people today 2 days. They give the other set of people another 2 days. You get that kind of rotation. But it would not have been the case.
Load shedding.
Yeah, load shedding. Yeah. It wouldn't be happening if they had, provided transformers. And this has been going on for at least 4 years.
The thing is this: all those power installations, they are property of ADC. They're supposed to provide them, but of course, in Nigeria, where the reverse becomes the case, that if you fail to act on your own, you might be in darkness in perpetuity, and nobody's going to blink an eyelid. Ordinarily, it should be EDC providing transformers, but because of the fact that people need electricity urgently, and when they wait for all these schools, they do nothing. Sometimes see people trying to contribute money, raise money by themselves to provide it. But guess what? When such money is being raised, and you talk to EDC, they will tell you we don't know anything about it, or blah 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 blah. But once people procure the transformer and call them, they come and install. So that's the irony of things we have in this very country.
Can estates like that sue EEDC?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, it's possible that you can sue and try your right, or even go and report to NEC. You can report to NEC, or in this case now, because in Anambra, for instance, we now have state agency that is now in charge of power regulation.
What are they doing?
So
Because I
you can
really,
go
this
to the
is like
state
an
and make
issue of
complaints.
urgency. This has been happening for over 4 years, and if people do not go to them to make complaints, doesn't mean that they don't have any means of checking to see that EEDC is actually acting accordingly.
The Nigerian factor is always dealing with us. If not, like Tony asked sometime on the program, he said, why would we want to privatize? Because we wanted to make progress, and we are giving the privatization to people who do not have the capacity to bring that kind of change that we need in the power sector. So you can see where you are. Just like the case of Nibo. Now, no sinana. So that is the problem we're having when it comes to this power thing in Nigeria. And guess what? The issue of national grid, whatever is generated is put to national grid. So if anything happens to it, every part of the country goes in darkness. That's quite a sad one.
Really, really sad. History impact as Governor Buni inaugurates world-class scientific research training center in Yobe, and Wike Camp fixes PDP convention for March 28 on page 5. The writer here, Turaki says we will wait for court. Uzodimma Buni Akonde, 70 others in APC convention panel on page 5. Malami lists income sources to prevent assets for future on page 4. Tizani bought £140,000 furniture in one day.
So
oh my God.
Can you do the mathematics?
On page 6. I'm sorry, my head cannot carry it.
No, you can use a calculator. You can use that to do that, at least to know the kind of money that is being mentioned in this very case. Because £140,000 in a day, if you go to UK, there are many people who do not earn that as in their annual salary. They do not earn that in UK, but that's what the prosecutors are saying, that she spent in a day on furniture. And the case has been issue of bribe, somebody offering bribe to her just to secure an oil deal in Nigeria. That's the sad, that's the sad reality that we are facing in this very country.
That's all of the stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, so you have heard the headlines, and next will be for us to begin the analysis. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Data Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to The Polity. My name is Franklin Ebukanda with Chisom Chinedu, likewise Notice Becky on the analysis desk. And we'll begin from Anambra State, of course. Now, Anna Sinono Maloma Wanapilo, and Charity they say begins at home, and that's why we're sitting here. So yesterday we talked about the opening of main market on Monday, and of course we brought you a live report yesterday. So we have had other developments between the last time we are here and now, and just like we mentioned in our our chit chat, that the governor of Anambra State, Professor Soludo, was there yesterday, and we saw how he was hailed by traders, singing that Nahamulobi Sali Sali, from Show Me the Law Soludo to Animolobi Sali Sali. So it's like now a swift shift or transition from what we saw last week. But the good news is that yesterday the market opened, and I had one trader saying that she came to the market yesterday, and by 1 p.m. yesterday she was able to make some reasonable sales. And of course the turnout wasn't a blast as it used to be in the past, but of course it was something substantial and significant. So let's talk about what we can draw out from what happened yesterday, Tony, before we now do extrapolation to what happened to other southeastern states yesterday, because we also had some kind of mixed compliance in other southeastern states yesterday. So what are the issues we can take out from the development in Onitsha main market yesterday?
I think one thing we must take away from the development yesterday at Onitsha main market was a case where the people decided to yield to reasoning, yield to logic, yield to works and the need for us to have our lives back. We have been in darkness for close to 5 years, and I've said it many times, and that darkness seems to be consuming us for whatever reason. and we have looked at that. We have not made any progress. We have not made any gain as a result of continuous shutdown of markets every Monday. And there are those that would want it to continue to their own pleasure, not to any known reason, but to their own pleasure. There are those that would want it, either because they have resentment against government, they have one resentment against one person or the other. Yes, government hasn't done this, hasn't done that. Over time, government has not been able to put up certain things they have promised they would, things like that. But would that be enough and justifiable for you to wish that the shutdown of these spaces continue ad infinitum? See, I remember one of the Lucky Dube lyrics where he said that leaders around the world, they start a war anytime they like, some for fun and some for pleasure. I don't know if you understand me. But in all of this, to their own glory. I remember that very lyrics. So for those who have been purveyors, those who have been chanting, yes, people should not come at home, these people should stay back. To whose glory? That's the question. To your own pleasure. You stay back, you stay home, you will laugh over it. You will gloss over it. You will remain happy. And for you think you are doing anybody good. But the truth remains, just like I've said many times, that truth is more like something we must follow. I've stated the other day we were talking about this, that according to Usman Danfodio, conscience is an open wound that can only be healed by the truth. And then if you go around the world, you find out that even in our own Bible, if you go by the book of John, chapter 8, verse 32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And the same thing across different religious books. If you go to Quran, chapter 17, verse 81, it says, say the truth, and truth has come, and falsehood has vanished. Indeed, falsehood is bound to vanish. The same thing if you go to Santana Dhamma, that's the Hindu scriptures. If you go by the Upanishad, chapter 1, verse 3 to 28, from untruth lead me to truth, from darkness lead me to light, from death lead me to immortality. So if you go around different scriptures, you understand that lies have no place. And what are the lies? That, if you look at, we must first and foremost establish certain truths before we now talk about the lies. Because I've said it many times, Monday sit at home is not sanctioned by the man you do it for. Nnamdi Kanu never sanctioned it. We've had some public statements where he kicked against it. And Monday sit at home is another truth. We'll not bring him out of prison. And this same Monday sit at home has become a business for criminals who enforce it. I've said it many times. And the Monday sit at home for over 5 years has not delivered any benefit in any way. And the same thing we have said many times, that these enforcement contradicts a lot of known values. Igbos are not known for this now. We are not known for remaining idle, stay idle, eat off and salah, play football, run from one street to the other, and then believe that it's going to be well. So, I have said it, no credible liberation struggle succeeds by destroying one's own economy and impoverishing his own people.
Okay,
so these are established truths. Okay. Established truths.
So Tony, having said this now, because looking at what happened yesterday,
okay,
of course, main market seems to be the focal point of the government to restart business. But main market is not the only market we have in Anambra State. And we know that the government directive was not just targeted at main market, but maybe in terms of strategy, government just wants to restart main market, having hope that once main market kicks off in full activity, others are going to follow suit. Yes, that or Chanja, it wasn't the turnout wasn't the way it was at main market. Government didn't blink an eyelid. At Newe, the market was open, but only a pocket of traders showed up, and some other markets we have in Anambra State. Perhaps in strategy, it could be one after the other. So, do you believe that once main market restarts full business on Mondays, others are going to join suit without anybody going for any enforcement?
Exactly. There is this adage that our people behaves like Ibunako. That's what we call Ibunako. Ibunako is that one that will always look around and see the way people are facing issues and take decisions. Generally speaking, our people behave like Ibunako. And with the way and manner we saw what happened yesterday, yes, it was not 100%. But there are those who were so much concerned about the early morning. During that period, there was scanty, places or spaces. People did not come out at that time. We saw a punch report where it showed empty roads, empty streets. But the caption was spaces empty. But it did not also remember that the timing of that photographs could also be stated as such so time, because you don't know what's going to happen the next time. Because if you leave it as if that's the way things were the whole day, you are wrong. But main market, remember, is the biggest market in West Africa. It is the pride of Ndibo, not just Anambra State. It is something we pride ourselves with. Over time, we have the history. So, if main market begins, if you look around yesterday, I was in the market, many of us were in the market, but some people were busy planning how to implant panic so that there will be a blemish that this happened. And for whose glory and for whose pleasure? I keep asking this. Anything you do, you ask yourself, what benefits is attached to this? So, for those who wanted to implant panic, that all of a sudden somebody would like to release knockouts so that people will start running helter-skelter, and those who would also want to use it as a statement will say, okay, you have seen now what we are saying. The idea is, I have said it many times, I am for collective interest. I'm not for any individual sectarian interest, for collective interest. Yes, member Kate, there was compliance. For me, satisfactory, even when it is not 100%. If it's not up to 8, it's not up to 70%. You can say it's just 30, 40. But it's a good start. It's a good start. Even if you narrow it down to 20%, it is still a good start. The key thing is, let's normalize our lives. I posted on Facebook, living in bondage is over in Anambra State, and we want it to be over because over the time we've been living in bondage. That's what it is.
Now, let's extrapolate, because that same yesterday, the sit at home was meant to take place in some other southeastern state based on the directive which was given by IPOB. In as much as later we saw a counter directive, but from the reports we got, there was a reasonable non-compliance with that very order in southeastern state. But from the report I got from Abia State, Imo, Ebonyi, even schools, banks opened. It was only in Enugu State that there were this controlled approach to going out for businesses. So, what does that say? Is that an indication that our people are taking their destinies into their own hands?
Yes, I have said it many times. I was shocked the way we act. Igbos are known for republicanism. And over time, and it has helped them. And there were times it has also destroyed us.
Issue.
Yes. But in this case, the idea of republicanism is everybody try to query anything, query first, query things, and then ask questions, demand proofs. That's just republicanism we've been talking about. Not where if they say go here, you all of us will follow here. Go here, everybody will follow here. We are not known for that. That's why when the white man came, they had it so difficult to govern Alibo. That was why they appointed Warren Chiefs. Because even if you have a king, not everybody abides by what the king says. king is worried.
Okay.
If he issues dictums, if he issues orders, sometimes these orders are worried. I don't know what has come over us to the point that we don't query anything. Query things. If somebody says you should do this, no, this bandwagon effect is not something Igbos are known for. Bandwagon effect. Everybody's on this road. There are some people that don't even know the reason or the need to be on that road. They don't question. I'm not saying that we cannot do things collectively. It's good. I'm not saying that we cannot decide on our own that this is the way we want to live. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that even if we want to, decide on any project, on anything, can we query it and decide and also agree that this is what we want? Fine and good. It will be very fantastic.
Right.
But the point is this. I've asked those who still want the sit at home to continue. When we have established there is no gain, there is no profit, it has always been losses from time to time. Now you still want it to continue. Is it for your own pleasure? You want to be smiling. We must commend those that came out yesterday. I must commend them, I must thank them, and I must ask them to sustain that. Take back your destiny. Let your destiny be in your own hand. Let no man decide your destiny. It should be you. It should be you. The government should also provide security. It's important because fear, I have said it, is one of the propagandist tools. They incite it, they sell it, they repeat it, they recycle it, they amplify it. That's propagandist. That's what they do. So, in our own language, we do say abrojo. So the need for government, despite the fact that I've said that some of these threats are empty, but we need to have this confidence and see security presence, and government should also try as much to build trust. It's important. I like what the governor did yesterday, the way he was, would I say, romanticizing with the people. People would say it is messing after that, but the way he was romanticizing with them. And just like some of you said before we started, these people, were they not just a week ago on protestation? That is the Boboya Boboya. Yesterday they were shouting Hosanna. In fact, they received the governor as a king. They were praising him in high places. And there are those that will say, forget those people who were there, they were just looking for money. But we also forget those that did protestation. What were they looking for?
Well, the funniest part is that the crowd from the protest and the crowd from the market, even among the market people, they will tell you they are two different people. They believe among themselves that people who actually own shops were not among those who protested. People who own shops were there yesterday. Some of them were not fully open, but of course, you own the shop, so you are the one who has access and all of that. But Tony, yesterday morning, we woke up to Max. I saw a video. X marks with red paint on certain places, and according to reports, about 10,000 shops have been marked for demolition in main market. And so many persons have questioned the timeliness of this move, and of course, the nature of which the government intends to go about this restructuring, which is reportedly the reason why this is happening, to bring about some sort of sanity and restore order in the market. The question is this the time to do this? And 10,000 at a go? What is the guarantee that there is spare 10,000 spaces for these people to relocate to? Isn't this going to bring about more anarchy in the same market where there is a move to restore order?
For me, there is urban regeneration plan going on. And we know the man market on its own has its own epube. It has its own epube. And I was at the market yesterday and I saw some of these structures marked X, as you said, with red paint. And if you see such thing, it means that it is marked for demolition. And I made inquiries, I asked questions, and I saw the original master plan of the market. Those structures were born out of population increasing and without alternatives. We've seen many times in different markets where the population is increasing, they will look for attachments, or you can call those structures attachments, no matter how neatly built, but they infringed on the master plans. But the government has come out to say now we want to just take them off and possibly restore the original master plan. But the question is, if you take them off, what becomes of those who are occupying those spaces? Because you can blame them for all you like, but they are our people. They are our people. They may have.
Are they actually to be blamed because they didn't build the shop by themselves? Many of them bought the shop from those who developed it.
That's what I'm saying. Either the developer, the person who bought, the person who, I'm just categorizing them in one, in one fold. If you call the person who bought that illegal space and built those structures, and the person who came to buy, I'm just putting them all in one fold. So they are still our people. I'm thinking that because there is need to restore the original plan, there's no doubt, because if you come to the market, it's suffocating. During festive period, you cannot even pass through some of these areas. Very suffocating, very narrow in every sense, and most times, if there is any danger, people will die as a result of either trampling upon us, anything. There is no exit route, and there's so many things lacking in the market. But somebody will be asking, why is government remembering this? Is it because of this sit at home? Something usually triggers something. I'm not here to say that why is this coming at this point. But the key thing, it ought to have come before now. We should have a structured plan and possibly phase movement. I would want situations where those who are on these illegal structures who are either occupying those spaces and all that, because we are looking at where to relocate them. I remember, if you look at Sokoto Road, those places were marked for residents. People were living there, but they have converted those places to market. Yes, these are places around the market where those who trade in those shops, they live around. But those places have been overtaken by market population, market growth, market expansion. I would not stand here to say that those who are on those structures be discarded without alternative. My concern is, let there be alternative. As we plan to restore the original master plan, which government is advancing, we should find where to relocate these people. And another thing is, there are some tracks in the main market that they can have a new space. I remember there is a place called Young. It wasn't like that before now, but it was a space. Somebody covered some part of River Niger and developed that very place and started building. I don't know who did it, but that place opened up for business. So we can as well, because if you look around, we are talking about urban regeneration, and if this territory road, by the time it's completed, it's going to bring Memake even more closer. I don't know. I'm just suggesting. I'm just making a point. I don't know if there could be a space around that territory road that we can relocate these people. Why the lane, that double lane, once it's dualized,
that place is already a mess. It's clustered. There is no space.
Yeah, I'm talking about beyond the roundabout.
Beyond the roundabout, that means you are probably going to be looking at Ukwele.
That's what I'm talking about.
Probably towards Oyi,
that is the regeneration plan, because the idea is to make most of these towns to be like a single mega city. That's the plan. In fact, I'm even surprised at this point we don't have mega markets around Oba. I'm surprised. I'm even surprised that, of course, we've got some in Ogiri, we've got some in the town where you have the bakery material.
I think Oba has one now, and then the one being developed. The one at is it Oba? Okay, not Oba actually. There's one electrical market.
At Obosi.
At Obosi.
Yes. No, electrical market. Remember
the one being developed at Oba now is the one for the drug dealers.
That's what I'm saying. If you look around now, these electrical dealers, before now, they were at Moore Street. But see how they were relocated to Obosi. You see how expansive that market is. Could that market have been expansive if it were in Atmore Street? The answer is no. If you look at those who are dealing on electronics, before they were at Iweka, but they were taken to Electromax.
So give me a second. Isn't it best to actually finish planning where they are moving to before you start?
That's what I'm saying. Structured planning and phase movement. That's what I'm saying. Because
so whoever refuses to move now would have to hold himself accountable.
Definitely, there will be structured plan. At least there should be a space where they could be relocated. And I'm saying this because Memma Kate in his own Wele Ebube, and that Ebube has always been there. But we know very well that every space is so narrowed. Do you know sometimes if you go there, you cannot breathe? You cannot breathe. You know why? Because, the sun, the climate change, and so many things. You'll be sweating. Many of them will pull off their clothes, and many of them. See, for me, we need to give that market a human face. Okay. And I support what government is doing, but I'm saying that why government does that, those who have been marked for exit, they should be given an alternative.
And more time?
Of course.
Okay, so then I'm going to prompt this very question. We'll go for this very commercial break because I'm thinking about the shop owners or people who occupy the shop.
Okay.
I'm very much concerned about them. It's not just about Anambra State. In fact, across Nigeria, whenever government wants to recover an original master plan, people who occupy shops are the ones who get to bear the brunt. But those who develop the area, they have taken their money and they've gone their way. And in some cases, you see that government at a certain time gives approval for such development. Then when a government that wants to recover the master plan comes, that government now begins to recover. But the people who get to now bear the consequences were those people who occupy the shops. They had probably paid the developer and bought the shop from them. So how do we shield these very people? Can we think about the process whereby people who develop areas illegally begin to pay compensation in a time like this? If that could serve as a deterrent for future, I'm talking about what we can do to, stop, because it will still happen. It will still happen, like the one in the main market now will not be in the end of it. Yeah. It will still happen somewhere else. We'll go for this very commercial break.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
Measles and rubella are deadly diseases. They spread fast, can cause blindness, brain damage, miscarriage, and sometimes death.
Every day, Nigerian children are at risk. But there is good news. The Saints can protect your child. The Anambra State government will conduct a mass vaccination campaign for children 0 to 14 years from 4th to 15th February 2026 to protect children across the state from deadly diseases. Take your child 9 months to 14 years for the measles rubella vaccine today. Complete all routine immunization doses from birth. After the campaign, routine vaccination continues in all health facilities. Vaccines are safe, effective, and paid for by the government. Don't wait. Visit your nearest health facility or vaccination site. Leave no child behind. This message is brought to you by the Anambra State government and partners.
Listen, country people, sudden death full everywhere nowadays due to ignorance. Oh yes, now make Dr. Gospower Idimogo, President and National Coordinator Anti-Drug Abuse Movement, come naked for grounds where say enough is enough. Time don't reach to begin liberate and stop all this mess, stubborn disease. Then when no green man and woman drink water, keep cup. The Anti-Drug Abuse Health Education Program on radio, now to save people life and wipe out all those androgenic and nosocomial chronic diseases them from person body system, either communicable or non-communicable, associated with drug abuse and infection resistance, leading to electromagnetic forces where they scatter brain. They cause organ system failure like liver function, kidney, heart, lungs, ulcer wound, and hypertension, to blood lumen blockage. So always join the Anti-Drug Abuse Health Education Program on radio, coordinated by Dr. Gospower Idimogo, Medical Director, Sunshine Integrated Hospital, Onitsha. Phone 08033206819 or WhatsApp 08109114333. Country people, be warned, life no get duplicate.
Join Anti-Drug Abuse Health Education every Wednesday by 8:45 a.m. on Udala Radio 104.7 FM Onitsha.
From the commercial city of Onitsha comes Udala Radio 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, where authentic news and entertainment meet. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Data Radio 104.7 FM. It's 6 minutes past 10 a.m. and you are listening to The Polity. My name is Franklin Ebeka. Chison Chinedu and Tono Disambeke, all of us are together on today's program. And we are glad to know that you're always there. Don't forget, we are live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Drop your comment on that very page. We are going to acknowledge it. So, I put up a question regarding how do we now, create a buffer or shield people who get occupied is very short, because most times they are not the ones who go to do the development. Rather, they buy the shops or they pay for the shops and they occupy. But once government comes to, recover the master plan, they bear the brunt. And the money they have paid to the original developers, the money is gone. So if there's anything we can do to shield them, that's number one. Then number two is the fact that there are people who saw the future. As far back as 1990s, they saw what was going on in the main market, how people were encroaching into spaces that were meant to be free. And they cried out. But some persons persisted in doing the illegal things. And today, what they cried out about is coming to fruition, Tony.
It's very disheartening, honestly speaking, and it is very lugubrious, as I always say. And we most times must remember that what we do, either while in office or while in a position of power or in the position of influence, because sometimes we don't even remember that of influence. There are people that, through their influence, make sure that things happen. They may not be in position of power, but they are in the position of influence. But you must ask the question, these things, how would they affect the generation coming on? And I have listened to different arguments on this issue of open spaces, how it was allocated indiscriminately, and those who were involved, and names have come up from time to time. We wouldn't pretend that we don't know these people. We wouldn't pretend that we don't know these names. But the truth remains that I have got some briefs where we are told that at a point, sometime around 1997, when Evariste Oba, remember he was on the program, in the morning program, Biri Kambiri, when he was the chairman of Onitsha Main Market Management Committee in 1997. That was many years back. You can imagine the year in view, the period in view. Evariste Oba was the mayor of Onitsha, not then, and Air Commodore Rufai Garuba was the governor of Anambra State at that time. And it was stated that late Chuks Anna and Dad, who was also a senator, they started indiscriminate and then reckless construction of shops on every available space as at that time. But one thing we must also remember is the fact that those things led to what we have at this point. The market was not constructed in a way that traders, shop owners will remove their shirts because they are basking for air. They want to have air. They cannot.
You mean the contraction?
Because everything seems to narrow. Every space is for a reason. If you go to regional master plan, every space is for a reason.
Yeah, from that report, Tony, we understand that some places were meant to be parks, some other places were meant to be master points. And presently, if you go to main market, you would agree with me that it's a mess. I mean, there are no parks, tricycle drivers, even people who have to offload constantly constitute nuisance. I mean, Tuesdays are like a very mad day. Containers are coming in and it's a mess. Now, the question is, governments in the past 19 years have come and gone. This government is talking regeneration, which is, by the way, a step in a very, very right direction. But I am curious to find out how this is going to be sustained. This present administration has, give or take, 4 years, because this is a second term, to be done with all of these things. And, the main market is not the only thing the government is going to focus on. So I am curious to find out what plan there is to make sure that we don't have pockets of things done and abandoned, which I dare say is one of the reasons why you still have people come up with messy constructions. Because if things are done and tidied, they wouldn't see space to do some messy things at the end of the day. So what is the plan that the present administration has in the pipeline? Like you mentioned earlier, you talked about urban regeneration, where some of these things are going to be moved. And when they are moved, and we're looking at the timeline now. What is the timeline for this move? What is the timeline for them to move? The timeline for whatever used to be there to be demolished, and what should be there put in place, so much so that we don't have a lacuna where they come to fill up with their madness once a government that is not, looking in that direction comes on board.
I think we are talking about timeline because I'm just trying to wear woman face to what we are discussing, but illegal structure is illegal structure.
Absolutely, and that's why we're talking
if you look at
now.
some of these spaces built by those who built them, either they were given to them by those who were in one-time position of authority, like I was talking about late Chus Anna, who was the local government mayor or local government chairman of Onitsha North from 1999 to the period from 1998, because I know that they had the election in 1998. I don't know if they started immediately after that period, but the point remains that these things were done by those in government and then also sanctioned by those in government. But remember, this falls under the purview of government as the overrunning or over outright coordinator of some of these markets and the activities in the state. We are talking about the timeline, and I'm saying that there should be a way to make our market to be safe for business, because as we speak, main market on it is not safe for business. And I've told many of my friends that I cannot stay there for 2 days. And for those who have asthma and other underlying medical predicaments, many of them cannot cope. See, I don't like the idea of somebody behavior now we are miri. The Ebube main market I've always talked about seems to have been, for one reason, repudiated by those unscrupulous elements. But you ask for timeline. There's never a timeline for something that is good. Anything, if you are in pursuit of good, it can be done immediately. But my concern is, just like I said earlier on, we must give human face to whatever we are trying to restore, established. If government, maybe this could be a trigger. What happened the Monday sit could it be a trigger, and government does things whenever they feel it is right, and if there is any trigger at all. For me, main markets on nature being, in fact, I don't know, because it should be somewhere in UNESCO's book, either for tourism or those who would want to see the story behind the market. But we must restore the original plan. I was there yesterday. I saw things myself. I saw some structures built with concrete. They may not even look illegal, but we know where the original structure stops. And we know the spaces provided we are meant for either parking lots and so many things, but these things have been taken over by these people.
Give me a second, Tony. When I talked about timelines and you said there is no timeline for something good, this is what I mean by timelines. When the government awards a road contract, for instance, I mean, we were told that the 33 Nkwele Road is going to take 18 months, right?
Yeah.
Now, a government says in 2 years we want to separate main market, we want to spread out. In 2 years, we know that the government has a 2-year plan to put up a space or a structure, because government owns market, and if this is going to be a private public partnership, whichever way they intend to go about it, but we know that this is a 2-year plan. These people who occupy these structures would start getting themselves prepared to move from here given this particular time. That is what I mean by a timeline. Because if we do not have certain terms stated out clearly, promise you, Tony, time would come and they will start screaming, we were not told, we did not know.
Ignorance of law is never an excuse.
But when you're talking about human face, this is a very important part of having a human face.
It is left for government to wear human face while doing this. Illegal structures can be taken out immediately. Let me say this, because it is good we educate the people. If we are talking about relocating the market, they were never under illegal structure arrangement. That one, you bring the issue of timeline. That for us to move this market from this place to the other place. We may map out 2-year, 3-year, 4-year roadmap towards actualizing that. Because you are putting people where they were legitimately, but because of the fact that they need more space and accommodation, moving from legitimate ground to another legitimate ground, there is always a timeline. But if it is illegal structure has no timeline. Government can dismantle it instantly. It is, but the thing is, I'm asking government,
that was why
we are a human facts, but once it's illegal, those who do build a structure, just like you asked me.
That was why I asked the question, because some of the persons who are finding very tough, if you go to them, they show you documents showing that the places were duly allocated to them by authorities. That's why I said, at the end of the day, people who bear the brunt are the traders. But those who started the illegality, they are taking their money, they've gone scot-free. Now, because this whole thing, if you talk about this, of course, and begin to circulate, you can see that if you begin to look at the markets in Anambra State, you will find so many legal structures there. Go to a couple, for instance. Even small diner can no longer go into the market to upload, because everybody, everywhere, I will go, have to check everywhere. And the people are responsible for doing this. But the issue is this: inconsistency of political leadership, whereby a government comes in and looks the other way around, why people go to appropriate land illegally and begin to develop. Then when the government that wants to do the right thing comes in and begins to take an action, people will begin to fight back. So if you have that consistency of political leadership across the board, knowing that and that should remain aga till forever, than when people are allowed to encroach and government looks the other way around, and after years of sojourning, after years of settlement, after years of making money, after years of becoming comfortable, government comes. We're not saying that government coming to restore master plan is bad, but what they're saying is, how do we now reduce the hardship that
people bear
when this happens?
Let me say this, because you saw the dualization of roads, and we saw so many buildings encouraged on the original master plan of the road. We saw the road that moved from from Agolo down to Newi, down to even my home state and my home local government. Yes, we saw the demolition of buildings that came close to the road, and many of them were shouting we were not giving time somewhere, because I know those X was marked, at least they were given about 6 months or thereabout, but some contended that it was not up to 6 months, and then we put it to them that in a real sense government can even take drastic action, just that government must also ensure it wears human face in everything it does, to make sure that the hardship people face, these things are not much. But that's by the way. We saw the dualization of the road, and then I saw some of them, but that's by the way. And then it comes back to what you said, the inconsistency in policies of government, we must admit, contributed to some of these things. There are sometimes government will want to do this, and the other one will come and look away and allow those things to proliferate. That is why I have said we must legislate some of these things. Had it been that there is a legislation on illegal structure proliferation in our market, it becomes a state law. And if a government begins to restore master plan, I had always advised government to back it up with legislation. The idea of backing it up with legislation is because one day the government will go. The other government cannot overturn it, because you have to deal with the legislation first. And in dealing with legislation becomes an obstacle. That is why if you come to the United States of America, they have many laws you cannot even remember. That's why lawmaking is a full-time business. I've said it many times. Why we have this inconsistency? Because the lawmakers, they look away. If government comes up with a good approach, like issue of restoring master plan, market, why don't we have an umbrella law on that? Back it up. Any government that comes back or comes in letter anytime, we know that this was backed by law. It's not something, because if you go contrary to that, you can be sued. You can be taken to court. See, we don't back some of these ideas, these plans by proper legislation, and that also contributes to this inconsistency. And for those who may say that we are this was approved to us, this was approved to us, see, illegality begets illegality. There's no two ways about it. Illegality. Because even those who are doing street trading, they are given small piece of paper. And if you come and ask, woman, why are you selling your tomatoes and peppers on the road? You have even encouraged some portion of the road. You know what the woman will tell you? They gave me authorization. That's what it means. That somebody gave me. And if you look inwards, it could be either the market authorities or the Indian or even the local government. But it does not validate that illegality by the time it's subjected to real time.
Right, so a whole lot needs to be done if we're going to get this sanity that we all require. All hands must be on deck. Then we have to go to another thing that is a development in Anambra State. Of course, if you look at the nation is right, you see the headline says NAPTIP arrests 4 suspects, rescue 17 victims in the Onitsha hotel. If you look at the headline on Vanguard, it says NAPTIP raids hotel, arrests 4, rescue 17 trafficking victims. That's on Vanguard. Then look at this daily super, it says NAPTIP raids Onitsha hotel, arrests 6 suspects, rescue 17 trafficking victims. And the story is all about the raid which was conducted by NAPTIP at a hotel located at the 33. And from what we gathered, NAPTIP said he got information that certain kinds of illicit activities are going on there, and they raided. After the raid, they found out that some persons were some persons who were trafficked there. They are doing all this illegal business of prostitution, are remitting some money to the so-called madam. And from what we gathered, these people were remitting about 20 to 25,000 naira to their madam on daily basis. At this very hotel somewhere at 33. Now look at the troubling part of it, because from what NAPTIP said, that when they did tests on these very people who were doing the prostitution there, they found out that all of them tested positive for HIV in that very situation. And for now, they'll be put under counseling and under drug at the same time. Then 4 persons were arrested in connection to what happened. And guess what? These people were trafficked from different parts of Nigeria to Onitsha, Anambra State. Some of them came from Benue, some of them came from other parts of Nigeria. Tony, at our backyard here, this is where this one is happening.
It's just like the one that happened the other time, we talked about it, and we discovered that people who were being used for forced prostitution came from different parts of the country. Some of them are not even Igbos, but you find out that there are those who are bent in such illicit business. Yes, we know that the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, that's NAPTIP, we must commend them for raiding that hotel, and we must also commend them for the arrest they made on the suspects and the victims they also rescued, because I know those victims we actually forced into that. And we know, if you go by the provisions of the law, if you go by section 4 to 5 of the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement and Administration Act 2015, which was reenacted after the original act in 2003, that is 2003, we know that the NAPTIP, they have powers under that very section to investigate, arrest, to prosecute, to even raid the offenses of trafficking, which also include recruitment and procurement of, all these things we know. But my concern has always been that we must tighten our state. It seems that this issue of forced prostitution, baby factory, is taking hold in our own state, and which is against our will, against our values, against our norms, against everything we have or we share so dearly as a people. So we must take drastic action. It's not just NAPTIP. I have said it last time we talked about the 104E, and I did say, if you notice some of these things, please open up. I think there is a ministry in Anambra State, Ministry of Women Affairs, and they have done extensive work. They have done good work in the area of curbing this menace, because it's a societal menace. They have done so much in that area, but it seems that as they are trying to do much in that area, these things gets hand in all of this. And we must also tell our business people, because if they don't also have patronage, these things will not be thriving. The community patronize these people, especially our men, because most times the blame is usually on women for doing things like that. But what about those that patronize them? Are they not our people again? Instead of you to say that this is wrong, this is this shouldn't be. But we go secretly. Even some married men these days, they cannot behold their wives, but they sneak in and out of these places, and money they could have used for family development, they use it for things like this.
Thank you, Tony, for actually seeing the role of the customer.
No, the thing is, I'm everywhere.
Enterprise.
I'm everywhere because men cannot be extricated. They are part of this, and it is thriving. We must commend that. And my concern is, if it is not Oyi, it will be Nkwele. If it is not Nkwele, it will be. I don't like hearing these things about my home state. I so much love Anambra State to the point that I would want Anambra State to be without any blemish of anything. At least the kind of records we want to hear is they want this in Silicon Valley, they want that in this, they want. That's the kind of story I want to hear. If you know how passionate I am about this state, you will understand.
So, Tony, let's talk about the resources on ground and, of course, support structures in place to make sure that fights like this are actually sustained. It's one thing to rescue them. We should be talking rehabilitation after that. And after rehabilitation, what next? Because if we do not tackle the root cause of all of this, which is more often than not poverty, how can we eradicate poverty? How can we make education more accessible to these young girls? If we do not tackle the root cause, it's only a matter of location. They would relocate. Next thing, they are in another, because these girls literally, they don't have, what are they doing with their lives? And the next person will tell them, you're going to Ghana to become a sales girl or to work in a restaurant. Of course, we know where this restaurant is. It's another hotel where they also get to, instead of selling food, sell their bodies. So the question is, what mechanisms are we putting in place to make sure that we eradicate ills like this right from the root, and also make sure that people we rescue from the system are not, maybe not forced back into the system by virtue of somebody maybe kidnapping them or coercing them into getting back, but they don't have an option. So how do we make sure that they don't go back?
It is one way traffic. First, when you talk about rehabilitation, there is social rehabilitation, psychological rehabilitation, and you also talk about value reorientation. Most of these young ladies, they believe that the easier or the easiest way to make it is to do those things they're doing. They want iPhone. I don't even have iPhone, but many of them crave for it.
You are talking about a different class of girls. You know, the class of girls you find these hotels, Okay. Their issue is not iPhone.
All right, now
these are the girls who are hungry and their families had no option. They're shipped to these hotels to work as caterers, chefs, waitresses, and all of that. They are only there to survive.
Chisholm, what has gone wrong with learning a skill? I've always said this: if you are a man, no matter how highly placed you are, make sure that your daughter has minimum of 2 different skills. Minimum, because these skills you may not need so much to learn them. You may not need so much to. There are so many skills, and let it be that we are looking for capital to start up.
I may need to butt it again, Tony. Give me a second. The government has a role to play here.
Definitely.
I think it was around Amobia, or somewhere around after a Coca down. I think that's Amobia, right? I saw a skill acquisition center, a dilapidated skill acquisition center, closed down, and I was asking myself, how does I think something about it by the federal government, something. A structure like this is overrun by bushes, and we keep talking about girls learning skills. What stops the government, maybe state, local, federal? We're not talking empowerment of giving sewing machine. People write names. People who cannot even use machines are given sewing machine. They get to sell it. People who cannot even give a proper haircut are given.
I understand your Chisholm.
What I'm talking about is proper structure.
You know, some of these people, they are not from Anambra State, from the reports we heard. But we are also talking about those who are from Anambra State who are doing this, because it could be in different categories. We've seen everybody, government has a role. Definitely, that's the major role. The parents, the community,
absolutely,
the society, everybody has got a role to play. And in doing those roles, we must also monitor. It's not about leaving all these things. If you go deep, just like you said, some of these guys may not have completed secondary schools, and if you look around, they may have left secondary school either as a result of poverty, as you mentioned, one thing or the other, or lack of interest. There could be many reasons, but majorly the number one reason is poverty. So where they are no more in school for one reason or the other, there should also be guide. Society cannot look aside. Things keep decaying. Why we are where we are is because everybody looked aside, including myself. We will see things and we will say, oh, what's wrong? Or because we look aside. And that is more reason you see all the values we were implanted with while growing up. These things are fizzling out in our own naked eyes. Most times there are things that will happen. I say, where am I self? Am I still in a limbo? I ask myself these questions. So the point is that we must start from time. I get don't know okay. We must begin no okay.
Tony, just can I tag on small because so sometimes when we talk about these things, of course, we talk about the role government has to play.
Yeah.
Of course, government has to play a role, right? In our own way as families, I think we have a whole lot to do. I'm just going to tell a short story, then we switch over to another thing. No, there was one person, a young person I once told after she finished her, that was her ND, and advised her to go and learn a skill, right? She had 1 year. I said, use that very when you do and learn a skill. And she said, she's waiting for HND, blah, blah, blah. I said, if you know what is best for you now, don't be hoping that, maybe by the time you finish HND, you get married and then you become a housewife. Just go and learn a skill. And guess what happened? At the point in time, her mom convinced her to join her up to so they're gonna shop a shop that has no genuine capital, right? I'm not in a shop. I told her plainly, I'm not saying you're not going to support your mom, but that business cannot sustain you and your mom. The best thing you can do for the future is learn a skill that is regenerative. Now, the time I was telling her this, her elder brother was the one taking care of everything about her financial needs, including buying her airtime. But she wasted that very 1 year. She didn't learn any skill. Later, she went and finished her HND. That was about 3 or 4 years ago. And now she's back home doing nothing. Now, that her brother who was providing everything has stopped providing. So whatever she does now is to beg for one person to the other.
It's not about begging for one person.
Do you understand?
Let me put it very well.
So you now see the vulnerability.
The point is this, and she becomes vulnerable to men because she would want. Everybody has got needs to be taken care of, but the question is, how then do you make money to take care of your needs? And when you don't have a sustainable thing doing to sustain your needs, you find that you will be very vulnerable to men. So the point is, education is not any kind of immunity of not having skills. Education without skills for me is nothing. What we are doing here is, of course, if we don't have the skills, we won't be here. Did I learn journalism? But it was something I honed over the years through certification programs. See, the point I'm making is this: everybody must have a skill. Tell your neighbor, tell anybody, even if you have a daughter. And the one thing about women is that their own case is different because they must be protected. There is special protection accorded to women, and one of the protective tools is make sure she gets a skill.
Empowerment does a whole lot because when a woman is empowered and can raise money on her own, there are certain things that she can.
Definitely. And I have always said this thing: for a woman to get into a man's house, you honor Agabedi, please make sure anything near the skill. Give her just that skill. Because the idea is, you remember, I'm that is just that. That is life. But there are those, for one thing or the other, because either the broken societal values, that's where we are. But we must also encourage government, please look into this issue of skills acquisition, because I know there was a time one U2 skill program that happened in Anambra State. But another things that happened, hairdressing,
the truth is, okay, so just hairdressing,
tailoring.
The truth is that government cannot do everything for us. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Some of us here are graphic designers, right?
Digital skills.
Do you understand? And some of us paid people to learn this. If you leave this very country and go to places like UK, if you did not learn it here in Nigeria, and you are going to look for somebody who's going to teach you over there.
You pay through your nose.
You pay through your nose. What I'm saying in essence is, government can do a whole lot, but people on their own should not forget that building your capacity building. It's your personal objective.
Digital skills are what is even invoked now.
What you're saying is absolutely valid, right? I am one person. I mean, if I tell you the skills I have beyond whatever it is I do,
you're a caterer. I'm aware.
I'm a makeup artist.
You do a lot.
Nail tech artist. The point is, I was raised not because of need, but because I love to do things for myself, right? And I know so many young women who can and who do that. But I maintain the class of women we are talking about, the ones found in these hotels, are the ones whose parents cannot feed. I am talking about the girls whose they are inside village, inside. These women, they come there as auntie, big auntie. They take them. They are going to be sales girls. We have house help agency. We have waitresses agency. We have modeling, ushering agency. They bring these girls to cities and turn them to prostitutes. They keep them in these hotels. I am not talking about these ones that have decided to not be anything. I am not talking about the ones who carried their 2 left legs and left their places.
I understand
and
what
came
you're
to that place in Obosi to come and camp and become prostitutes.
I understand what you're saying. There is no town in Anambra State where you don't have a central market. Every town has got some markets, doing one thing or the other. And if you come to that market, you find those who are plaiting hair, you find those who are doing nkata, you find those. These are things, these are skills. Of course, these are in different markets, no matter how remote that town is. They have got where some of these things are done. And remember, when I think I was young, if you go down to my town, my grandmother, we put us through how to make nkata, how to make baskets. These baskets are being used to either for palm fruits and some of these things. At a point when we are small, each time we go to village, our grandmother will be putting us through these skills how to make baskets. If you make this kind of baskets, you know what it means, and you literally get some of these things for free and get this made. But the point, I'm just trying to narrow it down to the level of poverty you're talking about. No matter how, if they can put themselves, find something productive. It's all about choice. Choice is also another thing. Because if you lie idly and believe you are vulnerable, you cannot look behind you. There are 2 things you can do. Trust me.
So Tony, for us to leave it, because we have to open the phone lines at this point in time because we have overshot. But I have to prompt this very topic about the big money, small impact. Governors face fire over 9 trillion naira FAC windfall. They are saying that governors have enjoyed a triple of allocations coming from federal government, yet we have not seen the impact. That ever since the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board and removed subsidy, governors have had more money for them to impact the lives of the common man, for them to show working. But we haven't seen those things, and that makes you to ask some questions at this point in time. Why the increased allocation have not been able to, or why the increase in allocations have not translated to better welfare for the people and better development for the people. We'll go for this very commercial break. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
104.7 FM.
ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osi n'ikuku akpọrọ rubella bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Ha bụ ndị nke na-agbasa ngwa ngwa ma bụrụ nke na-akpatara mmadụ ikpu isi, imebi ụbụrụ isi, atụ ọpụọ, ọtụtụ mgbe na-abụ ọnwụ.
Kwa ụbọchị ọbụla nwatakịrị ụmụafọ ala Naịjirịa nọ n'ihe egwu mana e nwere ozi ọma, ọgwụ mgbochi ga-echekwaba nwa gị. Gọọmenti Anambra Steeti bụ ndị nke na-achịkọba ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi malite n'ụmụaka ndị a mụrụ ọhụrụ wee ruo n'afọ 14 nke ga-amalite site n'abalị 4 ruo abalị 15 nke ọnwa February afọ 2026 iji wechekwaba ụmụaka nọ n'ime steeti a pụọ na ya bụ ọrịa ogbu na nwayọ. Kpọga ụmụaka gị malite n'ọnwa 9 wee ruo n'afọ 14 maka ịgbagha ọgwụ mgbochi nyere ọrịa arụbara na ọrịa osi n'ikuku akpọrọ rubella tata. Gbaa ụmụaka gị ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a niile malite n'ụbọchị a mụrụ ka. Ọ bụ na agbacha nya bụ ọgwụ mgbochi ndị a ga-agakwa n'ihu wee na-agba ya n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike niile e nwere n'ime steeti a. Ọgwụ mgbochi a dị mma ma na-alụ ọrụ gogo. Ọ bụkwa nke a kwụrụ ụgwọ ya site n'aka gọọmenti. Nya bụ echenekwa ka agwa gị gaa n'ụlọ nlekọta ahụike ọbụla dị dị gị nso ma ọ bụ n'ebe a na-agbanyebe ọgwụ mgbochi abrapụkwana nwa gị n'akụkụ. Ozi a si n'aka gọọmenti Anambra steeti na ndị ha na-jikọtara aka n'ọrụ ịgba ọgwụ mgbochi.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. It's now time for us to open the phone lines to take your input. By the way, are you listening to The Polity? My name is Franklin Ebekatono Lisambeki and Chison Chinedolo for us are together. So we get straight to our phone lines 0803-221-6973 and 0803-827-6694. And we implore you to just take 1 minute and make your submission. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone in the studio.
Yes, good morning. You're welcome on board. Go ahead.
I am greeting Izapakegu, warming the English from Osumuru.
All right.
Tony, thank you very much. It's one people. You are original son of the soil. When you quoted the Bible, you quoted the Quran, you even the book. Because you said the truth is life. Actually, truth is life. Does it mean Lagos do not have anything like that? Which you didn't quote. I am people, we know quite alright, and people say, there's no problem though. First and foremost, that is where you are, your originality. You say, that truth we say we know. I want to ask you a question, my dear brother Tony. Why you say, Premier Brewery kept moribund for quite a long time now? Many workers were laid off. Is it not economic sabotage to allow Premier Brewery to go moribund? And this is our professor, Okenwa, chief economist, is there watching this thing. So I would want that question to be answered. You say, let me tell you, nobody knows the truth, and nobody doesn't know the truth. We came to know the truth when it favors us. We begin to talk. We are not saying the truth at all times. I don't see anybody saying the truth. If 10,000 shops will be destroyed, I want my dear governor to do what? To make sure the money recovered, because those people did not go there to erect illegal sources. Monies were paid. Those money, where are they? Who collected it? Are they above the law? Good morning, everyone there.
All right. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. What do we have?
Good morning.
Yes. Your name? Go on, sir.
I can't hear you clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, talking of also transparency for the incident report, because I heard you and the question you threw to a young man from the market, a Lagos line precisely. That is a clear picture of what happened yesterday, because you threw a whole lot of questions to him, and the out of here answered this question clearly.
Can you summarize
And
your
the
thoughts?
genesis of all this crisis is that mismanagement of opportunity to manage the crisis properly. That is the thing that brought all their heart, telling, and so on. So if the government will not allow people to go to their homes, then that is it at home, which I suppose.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Please, let me repeat. Take 1 minute to make your submission. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
All right. Your name?
my name is Batmod. I'm calling from a name.
Yes. Go on, sir.
Good. Let me sound it very clear. The market Onitsha is habitable for business. I have gone there. The environment is habitable, and anybody that wants to engage in real business should go to main market Onitsha. It is habitable. Now, on the other hand, I want to ask some questions, especially Tony Olisambeki. You know, regularly you have to come here. I've been coming on this studio telling us how much Anambra State have lost from sit at home. So I want to ask Tony, can he give us the breakdown how much Anambra State lost from not opening the shutdown by the state government in last week? Can he give us how much Anambra State lost? Then number two,
Sorry. How much Anambra State lost when?
during the time Soludo shut down market,
That's for 7 days.
yes, Tony should give us how much Anambra State lose. Then on the other hand, I want to ask, Governor was moving around yesterday, and I saw some city mayors following him around, pointing where that is an illegal structure and where that are supposed to be demolished. So I want to ask, those city mayors, is that the right way to point out where illegal structure is? I think they should go with data and statistics before finding something out. Because a governor, who is the governor of a state, and maybe that mayor there may have some issue with those that are there. They want to use the presence of government to legitimize
All right. Thank you.
intimidation towards people that are there.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. Your question has been noted. So let's really dash to our Facebook page to react, acknowledge some of the posts before we get to the question.
All right, then. Ike Chukwumoye, your comment is first on the list. I see it, but I'm not going to read it. No apologies. Arinze, he says he's texting from Igbariam Farm Settlement. We are all happy that finally Monday sit at home is dead and buried. I only appeal to our dear Governor, Professor Charles Chukuma Soludo, to make sure that there is enough security personnel at those markets and Onitsha as a whole, so that those that are rejoicing now will have no cause to regret in the future. Very important. The wise wisdom says, why is Soludo seeing these illegal shops and stores now? Why not in his first term? I think that's what you meant to say. Also, why didn't he call off the sit at home? Why in his second term? He thinks this is politically motivated. Ike Chukwumoye, okay, this is a second comment. You are asking if someone is from Anambra State, is the person not an Igbo person? Or are you saying that it's only Anambra people that are good people in Igbo land? I don't know what reaction you are referring to, and when such an insinuation was made on this program. Ariza Bartholomew Enede says, sincere thanks to those who came out for business yesterday in the main market. There is no sound mind that encourages what some persons have termed laziness in Igbo land. He says in bracket, sit at home. The issue is about trust, intimidation, and rascality in governance. At no point should any government or its agencies take the people for granted. For mere gathering in schools, IPOB members were arrested and killed. For mere gathering in schools, how? Where IPOB members, do they gather in schools? I'm honestly at a loss. And also, when you send your message, please read it clearly. Let's try to be very clear, okay, so that we don't misinform the public, or you don't think that I'm intentionally ignoring your message, like you would accuse me of doing sometimes. But what you have written is what I cannot even read, not because I can't comprehend. Kelly Wilson says that the best way for a girl child to get a skill, or the best way is, you mean to say, for a girl child to get a skill. And this is also applicable to the boy child too. You are a graduate and you're into fashion. Today, 2 of your sisters are into tech. You also vow that they must have a skill before getting into marriage. That's a very commendable thing, Vinkel, and I hope that people around you also are learning from what you are doing. Oluchichima says, kudos to NAPTIP agents that went to the hotel in 3-3. My problem with them is that they are being selective in their operations. We have so many of such hotels where young girls are being used for prostitution here in 3-3. They know about it, and they also go after those ones who the owners of the hotels are not in their good books. Quite a revelation. If you know them, social media is there. How about you put out videos of, I don't know, how else do you report this? If you think that NAPTIP is in connivance with some of these people, there surely has to be another way of reporting and calling out such facilities, and of course putting an end to such nuisance in the state. Ifani George, texting from Bright Street Main Market, says, thank you so much for educating our people on the need to start coming out on Mondays. I thank God for the role of a father that our governor has played by coming out yesterday to encourage everyone. My own is, let the governor ensure that every Monday security is in all the markets to enable people keep going out. And also let the governor suspend all the markets, all the marks on people's shops, you mean to say, until a proper space is provided for the people in order to not increase insecurity in the state. Okay, that's so much we can take.
All right, so any person who posted it, our appreciation for all the input you made on the page, then those who chose to, urinate on all the posts, of course, we also thank you for doing that. So then quickly, we have a questions we need to attend to. Somebody who asked about, how do you compare how much Anambra State lost in the 7 days that main market was closed, and then if you want to extrapolate to number of days, okay, I think that was yesterday I mentioned that in about 4 years plus that we were not going to market on Monday. It was about 210 days it didn't go, but he asking how much we lost in 7 days. And then he also asked a question about the mayor who was or the mayors who were the governor, pointing out that structures termed illegal.
I think the question in itself is defective, but I wouldn't go into the defective nature of the question. Asking how much did we lose in 6 days compared to how much do we lose in 220 something days. So that's the question. How much comparing 6 and 220 approximately? The comparison, can you compare 7 and 220? Even when the one of 7 or 6 is corrective to stop the continuous loss of 220. One was meant to stop the continuous loss. The other one is endless loss. I mean, this is pure logic. You ask me, one is meant to stop the other one. If 6 can be used to stop 220 from continuing as damages, man, if you look at it, it's logical. But that's by the way. And then, let me say this. Igbo bofu. Ali Igbo bofu. Both Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Ebonyi, Abia. These 5 eastern states, plus Asaba, Port Harcourt, Ali Igbo bofu. We are one. And what I'm talking about here in Anambra, I can also say so in Abia State. And I would also want a Lex OT to ensure that my case, though there is partial compliance, but we want full compliance in Abia. And I was part of even Mba. When Mba did it in Enugu, I was behind him. Wifuru, I don't know what he did. That has stopped in Ebonyi State. Yes, it has stopped. And then who puts on him? I will back any government. It's not about being paid. My own is that my love for Alibo is paramount and the welfare and the well-being of Igbo people paramount. That's my concern for collective interest. I'm not here for just like anything that will make our people to be where we are supposed to be. And I will just say this: I would want good stories about Alibo, good stories. Let us be in the map. But I will not also forget that I'm from Anambra State. And then for my brother Isaiah Fakegu that said I quoted Hindu scriptures and then the Bible, and I did not quote that of Igbo. We know that in Alibo here, I'm an Ezioku Bogene Bundo. It's also part of our own scripture.
Okay. We have to leave Chisom. Yesterday, because you mentioned with race, he sent for a batch of Ebonyi indigents, 90 of them, for scholarship abroad. But then to go and, enhance their capacity and come back to Nigeria. Guess what? They were meant to sign an agreement that they must come back to Nigeria and spend at least 5 years before leaving again. That they must come back, deposit the skills they've acquired before going in another place.
You want my response? They play.
Is that what they have to
No,
say?
for me, of course, Wifuro, he has invested in these young lads. It's investment for future. It's proper investment.
I mean that document signed, we know they are not going to hit.
It's not about.
So it depends on how they want to do it.
By the time
you know what? Because if you're going to apply for Chevening scholarship, for instance, it's there. Once you finish Chevening scholarship, you must go back to your country of origin. Do you get? It's always there. So for Nigerian case, if they have a proper documentation, let me give you one thing that surprised me. The day I interviewed former U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Meribert Leonard, do you know before the interview, every data about me was taken to be documented for tomorrow. So if they want to do proper things and do the proper things, it's not about working with all these very ambassadors.
Who did you call her?
And
American ambassador, right?
These kids should live in a way that they have to battle with their conscience. It's not because there are things that at times they can even evade this and then find their way. We know how the systems work. But
My point is that
the most important thing is they have signed contract with their people with Ebonyi, not the governor. They have signed contract with the land of Ebonyi, and that's what the contract they have signed. And it's not about the government comes and goes, but the most important thing, come back and ensure that the skills you must have garnered, you deposit it back for the development of generations following you. And